Okay. So I'm going to create a new class, and in this class we are going to discuss about different types of element selection strategy which are available with Selenium. Okay, example element locator sample 2. Okay. Okay, so in this class, what we are doing, we are basically initializing the Gecko driver. Then we are creating a driver reference that is by default null. It means that the driver is not assigned any object. The driver is not created. That means the Firefox window or the browser is not yet open. Then what I'm doing within the try catch block, I'm opening the browser using new Firefox driver, and I'm keeping the reference with this driver. Okay, then I'm trying to perform some action on that. Initially what I'm doing, I'm basically navigating to a URL, that is seleniumhq.org. At the end I have the exception block, in which if any exception comes up, I just print that exception on the console. And in finally I'm checking if the driver is not null. That means if the Firefox window is open, this driver is pointing to some reference, that means there is a Firefox window which is open. So I need to quit that window, otherwise there will be lots of Firefox windows open if I am trying to run some hundreds of test cases. So I need to quit all these Firefox windows which are available. So I'm creating the driver, then I'm navigating to a URL, that is seleniumhq.org. So let's do that thing in our browser, and let's find out the other okay, we'll use Firefox for testing because we have this extension which is called as Firebug. Firebug is available with Firefox only. Yes, Anya, go on. Go on.
Sir, why we are using exception E in catch block, sir?
Suppose you want to create a variable int x, right? Int x equal to 10. So there is no reason why we are using int x. Similarly, exception is the class, okay, and we are creating a reference exception E. You can give your name, you can give any name. Ideally, it should be some meaningful name, okay. It can be any value. You can keep any value over here. Okay, it means if any exception goes is thrown within this try block, any type of exception if that is thrown, we can catch them over here. And if you want to basically understand what that exception is, if you want to perform some action on that exception, then we can use this reference e dot, then we can call the specific method. Okay, so anything that goes wrong within this try block can be handled over here. That's the reason we are using exception e. But there is no no need to
define that input output exception and
yes,
sign out
there is the
how.
you can write that. I have already told you we are not sure which exception is going to be thrown within these two blocks, right? So we are going to we are going to catch all the types of exception. That's the reason I'm having exception. This is the super class of all exceptions, right? So any type of exception which is a child exception of this exception class is thrown. If any of these exceptions are thrown, that will be handled by this exception only. Okay, we don't need to write any IO or file exception. But if you have some specific logic, if the IO exception occurs, then I should do this. If file not found exception occurs, then I should do this. Then you can have some other catch blocks as well over here. Right now, I'm not sure which exception is going to be thrown. That's the reason I'm having exception. That is a super of all exceptions. Fine.
Okay. Okay. And what is stack trace method, sir?
Stack trace is the method which basically in Java the flow is like there is a class which is having a main method, then that class is calling another classes another method. So that there is a chaining. Okay, class A calls class B's method, class B's method is indirectly calling another method. So that way we have a trace of information. Okay, that is like a chain of information. So when you write e.print stack trace, it will print all these information, like which class called which class, understood, and which method, and from that class again which method is called. So you will get a chain of all the methods. E.print stacks is going to give you the detail of all the classes via which the exception has occurred. Okay, fine. Okay, in Firefox we are going to go to seleniumhq.org, and I have the Firebug already open. Okay, now yes, in this site I am going to tell you how basically we can use the different selectors which are supported by Selenium. So till now in this class, in this try catch block, we have not used any of the selection, any of the element selection methods, element selection strategies. Right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to first use the ID element selection. Okay, so I'm going to select one element using the ID property. So how we are going to do that? So when I need the ID of the element, I need to use the Firebug in such a way that I can find the ID displayed over here. See, I'm going to give you one example. Suppose this is the download Selenium button. Okay, so when somebody clicks on this, it navigates to this download page, right? It navigates to this download page. So we need to click on this element, download Selenium element, right? So we need to first find that element, then we can perform the action, that is click action. So how to find that element? So over here we have this arrow icon. This is basically to select the element. So once you click on that, and if you go back to the browser, you can see the browser is having this, like it is selecting some elements. Which element we want to click? We want to click this element or this link, specifically this link, right? So I'm going to click on this link. Fine. When I click on that link, now Firebug has displayed the corresponding HTML code. I'll make it a bit larger. Okay, so when I selected that element, this is the corresponding HTML code. So we need to click on this element, but you can see this element doesn't contain any ID attribute, right? So this is the anchor tag. It has href, but it doesn't have any ID attribute. So I need to find one element which is basically having this ID attribute. So we cannot use ID over here. So what we are going to do, we are going to find another element which is going to have this ID. Okay, all these links, they're basically a href, that is a link, and they don't have any ID. So this text box, it has the ID. We have already seen this example. So let's take that example only. So now what I did, I have selected, I've clicked over here, then I have gone through the entire page, and I need this element to be selected. I need to find this element. So I'm clicking on that element. Now the HTML code is displayed over here, right? So if you look at the HTML code, you can see this is an input tag and the type is text. That means this element is something in which we can enter some text. Okay, when input type is text, when the input tag is having the type text, then we can enter some data within that. We can type some value. Okay, and to do that in Selenium, we have this send keys method. So first we need to find that element, we need to find this input, but within this entire page there may be many inputs present, like over here there is even more inputs, right? There are lots of input present, but how this input is different than other input, we can see the ID identifier. So this ID is having the value Q, and other inputs, they don't have that value, right? So we can tell Selenium to find this input element using ID selector whose value is q. Or we can use Selenium, we can call Selenium and ask him for name selector whose value is q. So first of all, let's see how we can find that element using ID identifier. Fine. So let's go back to our code. We know that the ID is q. So now we are in the Selenium HQ homepage. Next we are going to select that element. We need to find that element. So we are going to call driver. So just remember, this driver is nothing but this browser. So if I want to do some action on this browser, if I want to find some element on that browser, I need that driver object. So over here I have the driver reference dot. I need to find the element. And over here I need to say how am I going to find the element. How Selenium is basically going to find that element. There are many ways, I have already told you. So now I am going to use the ID element selection strategy. So it needs a by type, by dot. Now by dot ID we need, right? This is the ID. Double click on that. Now we can give the string value, ID string value. Now if you look at this code, it is basically saying we are going to call the browser and we are going to find the element within the browser and we are going to find the element by ID. Okay, so if we go back to our code, if we go back to the HTML code, we can see this is the element and we are finding this element from the entire web page, all the source code using the ID identifier. Fine. So let's go to our code and we have used this. Now the thing is that once we have done this, now Selenium has found that element. But we need to do some action, we need to perform some action on that element, right? We need to send some data, we need to type something within that. This is a text box, we need to type something. So to perform the typing operation or sending some data to that text box, we need to have a reference to that element. We need to have a variable in which we can have this element located. So if you look at this, if you put the mouse on this, you'll find it returns a web element. So a web element is nothing but these elements. Any element within this page is a web element. So right now we have the web element input type. So basically this web element is this text box. So we need to have a web element reference so that we can save the value or we can save the reference. So I'm going to create a new web element search text box equals to. Now this is how I need to save the data or save the reference or save the pointer to that element which is being returned by this find element object. So I'm basically creating a reference of web element. I need to import web element. So put your mouse on that and click on import org.openqa.selenium. Done. Now I have imported that value. Now I have a link or now I have a way to access this search text box. What is this search text box? This is this one, this element. This is the search text box. Now what we are going to do, we have got access to that element, then we need to perform some action. So I'm going to perform some action on search text box. Which action I want to perform? Dot. I want to write something, I want to type some values. In Selenium we have a method to type some values. To do that we can call send keys. Okay, this is the method in Selenium. So I'm going to call send keys. Over here I can pass a string. Okay, so let's call Selenium ID. I just want to search for Selenium ID. Now when I said send keys, when this line is executed, Selenium is automatically going to type those values over here. Okay, now we have seen how we can basically search for an element. It's a text box, then we are typing some value in that. So let's run the code and then we'll proceed with the next different types of element selection. So this is the ID selection. We'll see how other types of selectors basically they work. So this by.id is the selector. This is the method to find the element and this is a method to type something into the text box or a text area or something which is editable, whose value can be changed on the web page. Fine. So after typing the value, the code is complete, right? Now the code is complete. It will directly come to finally and quit the driver, but we won't get time to see actually if it has typed anything or not. So we can use a thread.sleeve and we can give a 2 seconds wait, and then we can see if actually something has been printed or something has been typed into that browser. So I'm going to restore this, minimize this earlier Firefox. I'm going to right click, run as Java application. Okay, a new Firefox is opening up. Yes, and it is navigating to Selenium HQ. It is finding that element and it has typed the value. Waited for 2 seconds and it is now it has quit. Fine. So the next thing that we are going to do is, we have seen how ID selection, basically selecting an element or finding an element using ID, is done. The next thing that we are going to do is, let's see how this element can be found. This go button. After typing this ID, I need to click on this go button. So when I click on that go button, it is navigating to a page. This is Google custom search page, and this page should be displayed. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select this element. So I need to find this element, how this element is unique in the page. Once I have found that element, then I can perform the click operation. To find the element, we need to click on this icon, then we need to go back to the page and search for the element. Over here you can see when I put the mouse on an element, it gets selected, it gets highlighted. When I click on that, now that corresponding code will be displayed. So this is the element input ID submit value go type submit. So this is the element which we need to find. After finding this element, I can perform the click operation, right? So let's do one thing. So this element can be found using the ID selector because it has an ID which is unique in the entire page. It has a value go, but I don't have any method in Selenium which is going to search me this input tag using the value attribute. I have for ID attribute, but I don't have for value attribute. Similarly, I don't have anything for type equal to submit. So I can use only ID to find this element and perform the click operation. So let's complete this task now. Let's first find the element. We are still going to use the ID selector now because the other selectors are not possible. So this is the go button btn. Driver.find element, I am going to use the ID way of finding the element. This is the ID. If you look at the ID, it is having the value submit. I am going to copy this and I am going to go back to my code and use the ID that I have copied paste. Now if I go into the driver, that is the web page or the browser, Selenium Firefox browser that has opened, and if I find the element using ID submit, I am going to find the go button. Okay, now what I need to do, I need to perform the operation click operation, go button dot click. That's it. Now the go button is clicked. So after typing this value into the search box, after waiting 2 seconds, then I am finding the go button and I am clicking on that. So once I perform the click operation, now it is going to submit the page and it's going to navigate to a different page. Fine. Now we need to go back to our browser, navigate to the new page. Then we can perform some other operations. Okay. Now this is a Google custom search page. In this page, the elements are very much dynamic, so we may face some problem. Let's do one thing. After coming to this place, then we will navigate back to the seleniumhq.org. So we are going to perform navigation operation. To do the navigation operation, we need to call the driver.get method. So over here, we are going to call driver.get URL. URL is same. So we are going to navigate back to this page. After clicking, after this click operation, so I am going to wait for some time. Suppose 1 second only I am going to wait. After that, I am navigating to this page, and in this page, now again I am in this page. So I am going to use the other types of selector. So let's find some more elements. This is the button which you can see, right? So there are many elements present. Let's look at those elements. I have clicked on this arrow, then I am going to select the element. Over here there is this option, go here is a link, and you can see this element, it doesn't have any name attribute. It's a link text, right? It's a link. Whenever you find this anchor attribute, it's basically a link, and it doesn't have anything which is a name, or let's look at all other options which are available. So by dot class name is there, it doesn't have a class, it's a link. So we can use the link text to select that element, and I've already seen link text, but let's complete that, then we'll move to the next one. So I'm going to click on go here. So when I click go here, it's navigating to a new page, right? But this page is opening up in a new tab. We'll learn about handling different tabs, but right now let's make it simple, and let's do one thing. Let's close this yellow color, whatever we say, yellow colored this message. We need to close this message. So we need to find this element, and we need to perform the close operation. See, this is having an ID, anchor ID equal to close, right? So we can find the element using ID, or we can find the element which is having the link text X, and we can perform click operation. So let's write the code for that. I'm going to find this close button. To do that, I've navigated to that page, and I'm going to wait for 2 seconds. I'm going to have a web element close button equal to driver.find element by dot id, and the id is close, and I'm going to perform close button dot click operation. After that, let's wait for another 2 seconds and then quit the browser. So let's see if it works. So you understood now what we are doing. We're navigating over here, we're clicking on this submit button. Okay, we're finding the text box, we're typing Selenium ID, then we are clicking on the submit button, it will navigate to a new page. Then we are going to go back to our URL, that is, we're going to use driver.get method again. Now in this page, I'm finding the element, the yellow colored notification bar, and I'm searching for the ID close. So this is going to be this element, close small icon, this element. And once we have found this, I'm going to click on it. So I'm going to perform the click operation. So this is the close button, and I'm performing the click operation. After that, I'm waiting for 2 seconds, and I'm closing the driver, and I'm closing the browser. So let's run this code and see this in action. Okay, it is starting off. Let's run it again. Now in this page, it is going to go back to hq.org and find the close button and click on that. So this code has worked for us. Now let's look at other type of options which are available in this page. In this page, we don't find many elements with the different types of attributes. Only we see ID, or either it's a link text or it's a button. So we're going to go to a different page called GitHub. In this we'll find many different types of input buttons, or we can basically go to this search bar and search for an element. Over here, let's look at the elements and let's see what type of elements they are. Can we find an element which is having a class name or not, and can we use them? So over here, when I clicked on this element, I tried to search for this search bar. I clicked on that. Now here is the code which is displayed. You can see this is an input button. It is having the class form control. So it is having multiple classes, right? So we can use multiple classes. So when we have multiple classes, we can also search for that element. Before that, let's look at some of the simpler examples. Let's look at this link. It's having multiple classes as well. Okay, username. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's try to type something within this username. So there are different ways to find this text box. One is using the ID. We can directly use the ID, which we have already seen. So let's look at the other ways. This is the name attribute, right? So let's first do this name attribute, then we'll come back to class. So if I want to find this element on the page, now this is the HTML code. I need to basically find out this HTML code. So what is common in this space? If you look at the name attribute user login, so this is something which looks unique, and any other element in this space, they may not have the same name. So let's use this name, okay, user bracket login, and let's try to find the element, and let's try to write something into that. So to do that, first I need to navigate to this URL. This is the URL. And what I need to do, I need to find the web element, that is the username element. So I'm creating web element username equals to driver dot find element by dot name is the field that we are going to use, by dot name. Okay, so in this name attribute we are going to put the value which we are going to take from this page. Okay, we are going to take, okay, this is the input element. It is having ID equal to this thing, class equal to this thing, and name equal to user bracket login. So we are going to copy the entire thing. Right click and copy, and then we will go back to our code and type the name value. So this is the name. Then we are going to enter, this is a text box, so I am going to send some keys, send some value, right? And after that, let's wait for 2 seconds and let's see if the data is entered properly or not. So let's comment out these parts, because we have seen these things are working properly. We can directly come to this step and okay, this is the part which we need to comment out, and I have commented. Fine. So now from here onwards it should work properly. So first of all, what it is doing, it is navigating to github.com. In GitHub, it is searching for the username field using the name attribute. Over here, if you look at this, it is having the name attribute. So using that name attribute, and using the name attribute, I am trying to find the element. Then I am trying to perform the send keys operation. Using send keys operation, I should be able to type some values in that. So we have seen how ID works, how link text works. Now we are going to see how this name attribute will work for us. So I am going to run the code, right click, run as Java application. Okay, it is hidden. Okay, you can see over here it has entered the name that I have wanted. Fine. So now we have seen how name searching by name works for us. How to find an element using the name parameter, name attribute value. So let's look at some more examples, some more different types of examples. So okay, let's click on sign in, and when we come to sign in page, Over here there are two elements present. Let's look at these two elements HTML structure. So this is the first element and this is the second element. The first element, if you look at this, it is having ID. So when you have any element with ID, a static value, complete value, a meaningful value, we can directly take that value. It is assumed that this ID is not given to someone else. So we can have this ID, we'll try with that. If it doesn't comes out, like if we're not able to find the element, then we should look for alternative solutions. We have the name equal to login. We can use the name as well. ID is there, name is there. And over here, type is text, fine. This is the password field. Okay, this forgot password. Let's look at this element. Okay, so this is the element. Suppose I want to click on forget password. Okay, it should take me to a page where it is going to ask me for email address. So to find that element, I need to find that element forget password. To click on that, I need to first find that element. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to search, I'm going to look at this HTML source code. Over here is the source code. It is having, it's an anchor tag, it's a link. I can use the link text forget password, which is going to work for me. Otherwise, I can use class also. Over here you can see the class is label hyphen link. Let's copy this class and let's use this option. So I'm in GitHub homepage, then I'm in the user login page, and I need to perform the sign in operation. So I need to first click on this element, sign in element. After clicking on this, I'll be navigating to this page. Otherwise, I can take this URL directly. I can go there and click on forget password. So let's go to this URL, login URL. In this page, I'm going to search for the element. That's a web element, and I'm going to call it forget password. Forget password link. I'm going to find the element by using the class name. Okay, so this time I'm going to use the class name. Okay, okay, over here I'm in this page. I need to click on this element, and if you look at this element's HTML syntax, we have seen that the class name is unique label link. So I'm copying this value and I'm going to use this to find the element. Okay, now what I need to do, I have found this link, I need to click on that. Dot click operation. Fine. Okay, so after clicking on this link, now I have seen how to do ID, how to do name, and how to search the element by class. Let's see if how this is working for us. So I'm trying to click on this element forget password, and so navigate to this page where it is going to ask me for the email address. Fine. So let's run the code. Right click, run as Java application. Save, yes. Okay. See, it has clicked on forget password and has navigated to the page properly. Now we have seen how we can use ID, class, ID, name, link text, and class. There are even more types of ways to find the element. Class name is done, ID, link text is done, name is done. So we're going to use CSS selector is there, partial link text, tag name, and XPath. Tag name is the name of the tag. So name of the HTML tag, one second, I'm going to give you that example. Okay, so for example, So when we are trying to find this element, input id equal to this element. So look at this angular bracket, it starts and then there is some text. So this is the name of the tag. Input is the name of the tag. So when we want to find one such an element with this tag name, then we can use that method by dot tag name. Over here we can pass by dot tag name. Okay. So let's do one thing. I'll send you the code and we'll look at this example later on because some people are getting late. Okay.